What is up, guys? It's your boy Thick Kackis, and today we are going to be discussing 5 exotic weapons that absolutely need a buff. These things see next to no PvE or PvP play, and the reason I'm talking about them today is because Bungie told me to. No, seriously, because last week, community manager DMG made a post asking people for what they thought are underwhelming exotics that the team at Bungie should take a look at, and that's exactly what I'm doing today. So, let's get started here with number 5, and that is the Jade Rabbit Scout Rifle. Now, this thing harkens back all the way to year 1 of Destiny 2, and what it does is, well, it only really has one unique trait, and that is the Fate of All Fools. Chain body shots to gain bonus damage on your next precision shot and return ammo to the magazine. Okay, so admittedly, you will see the Jade Rabbit from time to time in the Crucible on larger maps, but it really doesn't see a lot of play these days. And a lot of that is due to the fact that scout rifles as a gun type are not great in PvP or PvE, aside from the Dead Man's Tale, and so the Jade Rabbit is going to be the only scout rifle on my list today, because most of the exotic scouts would get better if scout rifles as a whole would finally just get better. But that's beside the point. The reason you see this every once in a while in PvP is because its exotic perk does dramatically increase consistency. It lets you get 2 body shots and end with 1 headshot and still get that 3-hit kill. However, the reason it's seeing less and less and less play is because just scout rifles are getting better. Remember, this was added in year 1, when legendary weapons could only get 1 main perk. Now they can get 2, and you've got stuff like the Iron Banner Scout that can get Iron Grip, giving it a ton of stability. You've got like rapid hit kill clip scouts. Why would you need to use the Jade Rabbit? You've got scouts with massive aim assist that will guarantee a headshot almost every time. So as its competition is growing, the need to use the Jade Rabbit is just subsiding. But then in PvE, that perk does next to nothing. Like, it is seriously useless because the damage increase is only for 1 shot. If you could maintain that damage increase, get a bunch of body shots against a boss, and then go to town against its head, doing way more damage than normal, hold on, suddenly we've got an actual usable weapon. But something needs to be done, because I really don't think a weapon should be, again, next to useless in a huge part of the game, which is PvE. But it is time to move on from there to the number 4 pick. And guys, number 4 is my controversial pick. It's the Outbreak Perfected. And I know some of you guys are going to be going, excuse me, Rick, how dare you suggest this gets a buff, because I'm still using it right now? I never understood those people, because if it did get buffed, your favorite weapon would get even better. You should be on my side for this. But seriously, the reason it's here is not because the Outbreak Perfected is super bad. It's actually pretty decent. But being pretty decent these days is just not good enough for an exotic weapon. This thing's usage rates are very low in both aspects of the game, PvP and PvE. And frankly, this thing should be good. This thing shouldn't just be average. The Outbreak Perfected is one of the most iconic exotic weapons throughout Destiny's entire history. It was a secret raid weapon back with Wrath of the Machine. It's our main connection in Destiny 2 with the storyline of the Rise of Iron and Siva as an enemy. Like, it's the only gun that you can use that produces Siva, and new players are gonna ask about that, go watch lore videos, and they're gonna be blown away by how cool this enemy was, right? But to have this iconic weapon reduced to just being average, if not below average, is again not good enough. Its exotic perk is the Corruption Spreads. This weapon creates Siva nanite swarms on rapid hits and precision kills, and then the more nanites on an enemy, the more damage it does. And it has a catalyst that increases nanite damage and spawns more nanites. Okay, so back in the day, this actually used to be one of the best weapons for taking down bosses. This is the thing that I used to get my day 1 completion of the Crown of Sorrow raid on console, right? This thing could crack, mainly due to auto-loading. Back in the day, if you were standing in a Lunafaction well, for example, or behind a Titan Rally barricade, your ammo would just magically appear in your magazine. You would not reload faster. And with that, a whole team using Outbreak Perfecteds could stack that nanite damage and inflict a ton of DPS against even a raid boss. But when that was changed, the Outbreak Perfected suffered massively due to that reload and a relatively low magazine size of only 36 for what you need it to do. So now that you have to stop shooting and reload, pretty often, its DPS just tanked. Guys, I really think the only thing this needs to become a real competitor is the replacement of the Outlaw perk with Rapid Hit. That's all you would need to do, because firstly, in PvP, the extra stability granted by Rapid Hit, where rapid precision hits give you bonus stability and bonus reload stacks up to 5 times. With a 3-round burst weapon, you trigger Rapid Hit so easily, so it'd be better in PvP, and then it would let you single target a big enemy and still get a reload bonus. With Outlaw, you have to kill that enemy, so it's great against red bars, but again, where it really used to shine and where its utility should be is DPSing bigger yellow bars, where Rapid Hit would be a million times better. I think that's the only change you need. It would be so much better. It's an icon. It should be buffed. Moving on to number 3, we have the Borealis Sniper Rifle. So this thing, again, is a remnant from year 1, and it really never ever saw a substantial amount of play, except for maybe there's a niche window in the Eater of Worlds raid layer, if I'm remembering correctly, where it was used, but aside from that, next to no play. Its exotic perk lets it cycle between different elements actually by holding reload, and then its unique trait gives it a damage bonus when you actually break an enemy's shield. The thing is, in normal play, right? If you're doing something like Override, if you're doing something like Strikes, when are you breaking enemy shields? Really not that often. There's 3 enemies in an entire strike where you break the shield. So this thing is really hard to trigger. You want that damage bonus against bosses, but you're desperately looking around every boss fight room for a shielded enemy. It just doesn't feel good to play with. And then even in higher level content Grandmasters, no one uses the Borealis. You'd think with something like Match Game being a modifier, people would actually use a weapon that can switch elements and get a damage bonus for breaking an element, but they still don't. And if they're not now, the Borealis needs to change. Guys, all this thing needs to be an absolute player in PvE is the intrinsic ability to pierce barrier champions. It would fit right with the theme of this weapon. It's meant for breaking shields. Why not break a champion's shield? And that would give it a ton of utility. You would be seeing this thing ran in Nightfalls so much more. A sniper with the intrinsic ability to break a barrier champion. That's fantastic. And again, that's all it would really need. In fact, introducing anti-champion properties is a great way to buff a lot of underused exotics in PvE, frankly. And then for PvP, just give it some more aim assist, you're good to go there. But moving on from there, the next weapon we have here is the Cerberus +1 auto rifle. So this thing has the intrinsic trait 4-headed dog. It shoots 4 bullets at a time, but sporadically. If you aim down sights, it's still going to basically be like you're hip firing. I have this on the list because the Cerberus +1 has a ton of potential. It's actually one of the highest DPS primaries in the entire game. But no one's using it right now. And the reason is just because it's really hard to use. You have to be using this thing in close quarters. Now, it got a catalyst that lets you hold the reload button and kind of switch firing modes, which makes the spread of the rounds a lot tighter, but significantly slows the rate of fire. The problem is that with this catalyst, it doesn't actually increase the range. And that is the main reason the Cerberus +1 isn't seeing a ton of play. It has an almost shotgun-like range fall off. Seriously, look at what I'm doing to this pretty close servitor. I'm hitting for 300 damage. I should be hitting for 2,000 damage at close range. So at this distance, it's already near the absolute minimum damage fall off for this weapon. That's absurd. Like I said, it's basically a shotgun. You can never actually tighten your spread, even with the catalyst, to a point where you can consistently hit long-range targets with multiple projectiles. So if it's essentially always hipfire, why does it need such a dramatic range fall off? Can't I, work on some red bars from medium range? Would that be the most overpowered thing in the world? Absolutely not. And in PvP, every once in a while you'll see this thing, but realistically, if you go against someone who's good with a shotgun, especially because of how good shotguns are lately, you're just gonna get crunched every single darn time. So I think it really just needs a substantial range increase. It's still gonna be a close quarters only weapon because of the spread of the projectiles, right? Again, you don't need the added detriment of an unbelievably severe range drop-off. But moving on from there, the last weapon we're looking at today that needs a buff is the Darcy. This is actually a heavy sniper rifle. Its intrinsic trait is personal assistant. Aim at an enemy to view its health and other critical information on the scope, but then it has another unique trait, target acquired, which boosts the damage, the precision damage, after ADSing on a target for a little bit. And frankly, the Darcy is a remnant of a lost time. Sniper rifles used to all be heavy weapons when Destiny 2 first launched, and then they were moved into the special slot. The Darcy stayed behind in the heavy slot for some reason, but was never given a substantial buff. So you can see, I'm barely picking away at this Lost Sector boss. It takes more than an entire magazine of shots that are boosted in precision damage due to the exotic perk. This feels like using a special. It really does. Maybe it does a tiny bit more than your average special, but the thing is, we don't have average legendary special snipers. We have phenomenally powerful legendary special snipers. This is competing with the Secession, with the new Prettiest Revenge, and its insane rewind rounds plus high impact reserves god roll. There are actual legendary special snipers that will out DPS the Darcy, right? So why would I ever use this thing? And it's sad because the fact that this is in the heavy slot, if it was just a little bit better, if you just did enough damage to justify using it, you could have some really fun and interesting double sniper builds for PvE, especially in something like a Grandmaster. Being able to put on sniper scavengers and finders and double up for your Darcy and your Secession, for example, would be a hugely beneficial thing. But again, that showcases how bad the Darcy is. Even though that would be a huge benefit, people still never use it because it doesn't do enough damage. I keep harping on about it, but it's just such a fact. And in PvP, why would you use your heavy slot for this thing? Unless you're going for clips, there's no reason to not use something like the Wardcliff Coil, which is a guaranteed kill, and replace it with a Darcy. It's laughable. So PvE is what they need to target, and all they need to do is increase the damage. And so guys, that is it for the video. What do you guys think? Or do you have other exotics that you think desperately need a buff? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.